remarkably distant after coming out of cotton. So there's some good models to learn from, and there's some good things to challenge yourselves with. So we've got a few minutes for questions before we break up into groups. So we've got one right here in front. Oh, great, we've got heaps this morning. You guys aren't as sleepy as I thought you'd be.
Jim Callan.
Who you are and where you're from. Yep.
Callan Thompson from Northern Territory, DPIF. Just wondering, developing in a region where there's not already a lot of producers who are paying industry funds, how'd you get the RDCs to work with you?
My answer simply is they're probably not working with us that much. Sure, it's a challenge when you don't have a fully functional industry, and industry establishment is one of those issues that sat underneath that title I put up there, is where you haven't got a functioning industry. It's you haven't got the first step. So research funds and so on is one of those elements. We've got around it. Strangely, we've set up our own research, privately funded research group in Kununurra, and that's a combination of Ord Stage 1 growers, ourselves, and the Chia Company, for those of you who are familiar with it. So we're looking at, inside that research group, grains and cotton, and we're prepared to do it. So you're right, that's one of the challenges of industry establishment.
G'day, Clinton Skeoch from Sydney. Cubbie Station traditionally has had a lot of stakeholders and a lot of viewpoints in I guess the Australian landscape. You've got Australian shareholders, you've got overseas shareholders, and it may also apply to KOA. How do you guys navigate the challenges of things like transfer pricing as a board, and what that does to the profitability or the management of the operations that you run?
Great question, and that was voluntarily addressed when the Foreign Investment Review Board analysed the application, and a set of conditions were outlined. And in regards to the participation on the global market, I, the manager of the organisation, take the piece of commodity out into the marketplace, and everyone bids on it. And we've got a transparent exercise that operates internally, and the Foreign Investment Review directors get a privy to that on a quarterly reporting basis. So I applaud the Foreign Investment Review Board with their stance, and when outlining the conditions associated with the approval back there in 2013.
Just a follow-up question, sorry.
You're right.
Given that you're a vertically integrated supply chain, how does that market mechanism work? I assume your upstream supply.
You said again. Yeah.
Given that you're a vertically integrated enterprise, how does that market mechanism work? Given that I'm assuming your Chinese supply chain is expecting that product, or has an expectation of a reasonable volume?
The Chinese are not after Cubbie Pacific cotton in that sense. They're wanting to buy Australian cotton. They're after a piece of cotton. And now, at the end of the day, whether I sell to a Louis Dreyfus or a Olam or whoever won the bid in that tender process, they then could potentially be buying that commodity off that trader at a later stage while it's sitting on a ship heading off to Qingdao. They participate in just ongoing trading of that commodity. So, look, we offer a piece of cotton at the ginnery, price at the ginnery, price at the port in Brisbane, price at the port in Sydney, delivered to Qingdao, delivered to Shanghai, delivered off to Vietnam. So again, it's understanding the customer you're targeting, or the customer that's ultimately wants to spin your cotton, and creating the market mechanism to offer it into that space. We're here in Australia, and James can back me up here. We're up to 17 cotton merchants trading and buying for a piece of Aussie cotton to trade on the global platform. Well, there's 17 plus there's a multiple of spinning mills that are happy to be a part of that process as well. So it's an open process, and the end supply is not all going to Cubbie's cotton. Is all not going to Ru.
So the FIRB aren't the toothless tiger that Alan Jones says they are?
Thanks, Mike.
Sam.
Oh, look, sorry. They've got a job to do. And I admire that.
They're actually
it's not an
effective.
easy job, but I
they're
mean,
effective.
all things being equal, they'll consider each application on its merit and grant the approval or non-approval and approval of various conditions that link to it. And
Sam.
Sam Tretheri from Sproudex, and thank you all for coming along and speaking. I found all of it really interesting. I think that around foreign investment and some of the issues and I think developments that you're doing is largely, I think, the future of Australian agriculture. I think it's really great to hear some success stories and note all of your points. Jim, I just wanted to ask, we hear a lot about developing the North Australian, the North Australian White Paper. We hear all of this, and I've been following what you guys have been doing for quite some time, and I understand that you've had a number of issues at local, state and federal level trying to get things through. I'm not quite sure if that's true. I just wanted your thoughts or comments when we've got all these big strategic decisions around, turning that into a huge food bowl. You've got some red tape issues potentially.
Yeah, look, good question. Can I start with the food bowl one? Let's knock that one on the head, I think. If North Australia is going to be a food bowl, then Asia is going to starve. I think we've got to be real here. I mean, Asia's been feeding itself in China for thousands of years. So I think for Australia to roll onto the scene and all of a sudden say it's the food bowl of Asia is, it's bordering on ridiculous. I think for Australia, though, the opportunity is, and it's been mentioned a few times, is that if we take our agriculture production from what it is today to double, that's a major shift in Australian agriculture, and that's upheaval that we've probably not seen in the ag side since probably when all the first settler blocks were opened up. So that's the food bowl one. In terms of your question around problems and red tape. Look, yes, there has been a little bit. Sometimes I present occasionally. Partly that's sometimes to jab them in the ribs to get them to, if I present publicly that, and sometimes we put them on the front page of the West Australian or the newspaper. That's part of the system, I suppose, because our project is such a politically sensitive project. We've been, and perhaps reluctantly, forced into that space to operate in that political space. So we do what we can to operate. We have had a few problems with approvals and getting things through, and there's inconsistency. So we've got the white paper, the North Development push, yet you have, and generally speaking, you've got a push to develop the North, yet there are strong elements in various bureaucracies that would prefer not to see that happen. So there's always going to be that discussion, and it's really a discussion, I think, and that's what we have, and sometimes we have it publicly.
It's rather difficult to manage the binary nature of some of those discussions. It's black or white, right or wrong, when it's always far more complicated. And being able to have that discussion is the challenge, because the flamethrowers will always focus on the binary aspect. So how do we do that? How do we make sure we can have a rational and sensible conversation about something that's so important? Okay, we're going to wrap. Oh, one more question here, then we'll wrap up. Yep.
Sorry, one more. Beck Milliken from Delta Ag. This one's for Paul. I'm just wondering if you could give us a quick run through of some of the, challenges you guys face as a Brimblecombe family in terms of managing the sale and succession planning into Cubbie.
Okay. Well, I've got 1 minute.
And I get the nature of that question. It's very big, but have a go.
Yeah. Okay. So. Where do we start? Interesting journey, heck of a journey. I've been involved now with Cubbie, started back there in '92, and our family operation undertook some contract farming and got involved with Cubbie Station back then. And from there, it was an incredible journey with the overall construction of Cubbie Station. Let's face it, there won't be another Cubbie Station constructed in Australia, particularly in the Murray Darling Basin. And then, the succession planning. I mean, two families basically were then running in a co-op style of arrangement, marketing cotton or buying inputs or just general operations of the farm. So the relationship started. It did start back there in '92. Just winding it back a bit further, my dad grew the first crop the year I was born, so I mean we've been in the cotton game forever. And anyway, then both families formed this co-op and family members sitting around the boardroom table. Well, we wanted to take that a bit further. Opportunities came along where there's a considerable interest in investing in agriculture from the eastern seaboard, and professionals were keen to be involved, i.e. directors and then also professional investors wanted to obviously invest in agriculture. So we're able to harness a vehicle and create a public company, albeit unlisted. And at that point, it came to decision time with the succession within the family groups, and the Brimblecombe family and the Stevenson family ultimately chose then back in 2005 to unlock a considerable amount of equity and let all the family members go and do what they wanted to do. If you can recall, back in 2005, the banks were very complimentary to ag investment. 2004-05. The whole soft commodity boom was well and truly capturing everyone's attention at that point. So anyway, the balance sheet was reset. All the family members were able to unlock their piece of equity, went from a family boardroom table into a corporate boardroom table, and families, it dissolved the whole family structure. So that was the end of the, basically succession planning when it came to the families, but then we rolled into the corporate space. From there, the balance sheet was reset. I mean, everyone's heard about the administration period and so forth. Well, the balance sheet was reset on the basis of a 1 in 80-year drought. Lo and behold, the 1 in 100-year drought came along in the middle of final development of Cubbie Station. So that put a bit of pressure on the balance sheet, and hence then a global investment opportunity came along. I will share, and we can laugh about it now. At the time, we went on a global trek to attract the investors and promoted Aussie Ag and promoted the Cubbie opportunity, and got a lot of interest. And it was just behind the time when Prime Ag raised the 300 mil cash box overseas and came back and invested in Aussie Ag. And we got the interest, but we were told we had to come back and turn our company into a liquid company, being able to trade the shares on the stock exchange. So we then went into a huddle for an 8-week session and put together a prospectus to present to the market. And we went on our cornerstone trip to market the piece of business, and it was a 6-week trip. Our very first day of marketing that business, we are marketing the equity opportunity, and we were walking into Lehman Brothers and they were walking out. And we know what happened then. So interesting time, and the drought continued to bite, and
we have to keep going.
And sorry, but you
it's
said
a
it was going to be a
wonderful story.
Just had a little bit more to go, but anyway, cotton prices were never going to go above $500 a bale again. The river was never going to run again. I mean, and that was the view of those that were supporting the business at the time. And anyway, I understand that they've got shareholders to manage as well. And anyway, a shot was called to put into administration. Within 6 months of administration, we had a 1 in 100-year flood event. Cotton prices soared to $1,000 a bale.
I've still got it on my wall. Yeah. 500 bales at $1,000.
Nailed it. And anyway, it went into an interesting paradigm of some quite considerable EBITs rolling off the property, and obviously the attraction led to, and we didn't go into Asia or deep into Asia by way of going to China.
We're going to wind this up now.
Okay.
That was a too big a question. Thank you for that.
Yeah. I'm just avoiding more questions.
Well done. Okay, we're going to wind it up. We're going to break up into groups now.